Alright, I've got quite the contraption to show you here. You're going to see it in a little bit here in this video, but first let's bring everybody up to speed so everybody understands what's going on here and what's what. This is a reel mower, not R-E-A-L, but R-E-E-L, because the blades are actually in the form of a reel. It's like a drum that spins around and it shears the blades of grass off. So when you push a reel mower, as the wheel turns, it spins the reel in there. That reel spins around, and the sharp edges on the reel press against a sharp edge on what they call the bed knife down below, and it's kind of like scissors where it just creates that shearing action and just clips the grass blades right off. As you can see, there's a bit of a curve to the cutting edge on the reel, and the reason for that is so you won't have the entire width of that cutting edge passing over the bed knife all at one time. If it did that, you'd be trying to clip grass at the entire width of that bed knife, and it would just be too much. You wouldn't be able to actually push the mower to get the wheels to spin to get your reel to move, and you would just end up yanking the grass out rather than shearing it off nice and cleanly. So just like using a pair of scissors when you're going to, say, cut your hair, and if you have a real dull pair of scissors or the blades don't line up right, you know how it just kind of pulls the hair or rips it rather than cutting it? You can imagine how that would work with a setup like this, where if everything is not true, everything is not exactly the way it needs to be on that cutting edge on the reel or on the bed knife, as those two surfaces pass by each other, it's not going to cut the grass cleanly. It's going to just start to rip it out, and it's not going to do a very good job. So as you can imagine, the cutting surfaces on the bed knife and the reel have to be sharp to maintain a good quality cut. Once it gets dull or nicked up or beat up or rounded off, it's just going to start ripping the grass out instead of cutting it. So what do you do to be able to keep this thing cutting at its best? Well, after a few cuts, you can do what they call back lapping, where you put some lapping compound on the cutting edge of the reel, and you spin that reel around past the bed knife, and it's going to clean up the surface on the cutting edge of the reel and that cutting edge on the bed knife, and it's going to wear the two in together, just like lapping a valve on an engine. When you cut that valve seat and you put the valve in there, you cut the valve seat and cut the valve, and you want to mesh them up. You know, you put the lapping compound on there and you spin that valve around and match up those two surfaces so they mate together better. Get a better seal on there. Same thing here. You want to make sure that the surface on that reel matches up with that surface on that bed knife to get a nice clean cut. But again, as I just said, this is something you would have to do after, a few cuts. You can't wait till the end of the season after you ran sticks through it and other dirt and debris through it, and then say, well, this looks pretty hammered up. I guess I better back lap it to get this thing sharp again. So the proper way to actually sharpen a reel mower reel is to take the entire thing apart, pull the reel out, you clamp it in this machine made specifically for sharpening reel mower reels, and you have a grinding stone that slides from side to side, and it goes across that cutting surface on the reel. And you'll use a dial indicator to go across there and measure which one's the worst. So when you find the one that is the worst, you'll go across there with your grinding stone. You might go across there, let's say, 6 times. You're going to spin the reel around the next cutting surface. You're going to go across there 6 more times. And you're going to check it with your dial indicator the whole way across, because you want to make sure that this is even the whole way across so it matches up properly with that bed knife, so it's that nice shearing action instead of that ripping, pulling action like you would get with a pair of scissors that's bent or twisted a little bit where the surfaces don't quite meet together the way they should. So now that you know what a reel mower is, have a bit of an understanding as to how they work and how to maintain them and keep those cutting surfaces sharp, I give you this, the main event of this video.
What this came from was when we put the lawnmowers in the bottom wheel, we put a sharpening tool.
Yeah.
And it's lapping powder and real crank. Easy help when you put them on there real fast. built that. I don't know why the grinding is and all that shit. We got beer, we got food and stuff like that.
So a lot of stuff to go through here on this, right? This is at a local hardware store slash power equipment dealer that offered reel mower sharpening, and that was how they do their reel mower sharpening. Now, I've explained to you the whole process for using the lapping compound, or if you actually have to sharpen the reel, tearing the entire thing apart, and the special process to do that. So you can probably guess what they're doing here. They have this reel just spinning away with lapping compound on there, and it just runs forever. Just runs and spins and spins and spins and spins and put more lapping compound on there and put more lapping compound on there and just let it spin away. And that's going to refresh these cutting edges and make them like new. Just so many things going on here, right? So many things to talk about. Let's start with the fact that this whole contraption is built on a store shelf that they could pick up and move to whatever bench they wanted to mount this apparatus on. The reel mower itself is mounted to this apparatus with a bungee cord on a couple 2x4 blocks, free to just bounce up and down and move at will, along with the ups and downs of the power unit for this contraption. So, speaking of the power plant of this operation, we have an electric motor with a pulley on it, and the belt going from that pulley to another pulley on a benchtop grinder. Then, in the middle of this benchtop grinder, there's another pulley with a belt going across to a bigger pulley. But before we move on to what that pulley is powering, back to the benchtop grinder, where then there's a grinding wheel still on this benchtop grinder, just spinning away during this entire operation. It's not used anywhere in this setup. It's not used for anything involved with sharpening this reel mower, but it's just there spinning away. Maybe it's a counterbalance for that shaft with the pulley on it. I don't know. Maybe it's just there for looks, or it's kind of like Bluetooth these days, how they put Bluetooth on everything. Maybe this is something that came with a grinding wheel just because they could do it. So back to the belt going to the larger pulley from the center of this benchtop grinder. It goes back, which is spinning a shaft, which has which has a drill chuck rigged up on the end of it with a bolt in it, I believe. No, I believe that's actually a pipe. I believe that's a pipe nipple that's clamped in the drill chuck, if I remember correctly. And that's why you have those pipe fittings there that go into a bushing that was made to clamp on to the shaft of the reel to make the reel spin. Quite the elaborate setup. You can tell that... I want to say you could tell this was manufactured in a hardware store. But even that doesn't do it justice, because you would think in a hardware store they would have better components to use. Like, what is the point of that bench grinder being put into the process here? Why would you not just have the belt run directly from the electric motor to that shaft with the chuck that is connected to the shaft on the reel? Like, why not cut out the middleman there? I watched this in action and I was almost hypnotized by it. Like, just the number of unsafe things to do with it was one thing. The extra pieces and components in there, all the extra steps along the way, I was blown away by this. Like, I just stood there trying to comprehend it all. I didn't know what to say or what to think, and I'm like, and you guys actually use this? This is a service that you're charging for? You're advertising this. And then the best part about it is they were saying man, we really need to get these high school kids into sharpening these reel mowers because we're getting backed up on them. After seeing this, do you want some inexperienced high school kid anywhere near this contraption? No. My God, you talk about an accident waiting to happen. That's a lawsuit and a half waiting to happen. Holy crap. You know, nobody wants to use this. And the reason why is because you have the high school kids who you would try to push this on, the part-timers, who don't have enough experience to say, no, this isn't the right way to do this. But they're going to look at it and be like, I don't understand how this works, and walk away from it, thank God. And anybody that does have any knowledge of how this should be done or just what is going on here is going to be like, yeah, F that. I'm not getting anywhere near this shit. Oh, you never know what's going to come flying apart, flying off of it, what's going to get sucked into it. I mean, I was speechless when I saw this. I really was. I just stood there like, what am I watching? What am I seeing? I actually used to work at a golf course, and in the wintertime, you tear everything apart, tear the reels apart and stuff, to sharpen them, put new bearings in there, put new bed knives on, make sure everything's good to go for the upcoming season. So everything's nice and sharp. And when these guys said, yeah, we sharpen reel mowers, and I'm like, you actually got a machine to sharpen these reel mowers? Yeah, we do. And then I saw this. I'm like, oh boy, I don't even know where to start. So I just had to share this with everybody. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. I would love to hear some comments, hear the feedback from you guys as your thoughts on this. You can drop some comments on the video. You can send us an email, eshelmaniatv@gmail.com. That's going to do it for this one. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, and thanks for watching.